Hey everyone, Bikash here, and let's face it, getting feedback can be nerve-wracking, but it's also one of the best ways to improve your writing. And guess what? Giving feedback is a fantastic way to hone your own writing skills too. It's like that saying, you don't really understand something until you can explain it to someone else. Except, in this case, you are explaining how to make something better, which we all know is way more fun. So, whether you're a seasoned writer or just starting out, mastering the art of peer review is a valuable skill to have. Conducting a peer review assignment can be a rewarding experience that helps improve your own writing skills while providing constructive feedback to others. In this video, I'm going to break down the process of giving killer peer reviews that are actually helpful and maybe even a little bit fun. We'll go through a step-by-step guide on how to do it effectively, along with key elements to check for to achieve a high score. First things first, you gotta know what's expected of you, just like you wouldn't show up for a game of basketball wearing a swimsuit and flippers. You need to make sure you're prepared to play this particular game. Before you even dive into your classmates' work, take a minute to read the assignment guidelines carefully. What exactly is the professor looking for in this particular assignment? Are there specific questions you need to answer? Do they want feedback on the argument, the analysis, the grammar, or all of the above? Knowing the specific requirements for the peer review is key. You're not just randomly giving your opinion here, you're acting as a sort of assistant teacher, helping your classmates meet the criteria set out by the big kahuna, aka the professor. So channel your inner rule follower, grab those guidelines, and let's get this peer review party started. Okay, you've got your assignment sheet, you've got your metaphorical red pen ready, it's time to dive into your classmates' work. But hold on a second, don't go all grammar police just yet. The first read-through is about absorbing, not dissecting. Think of it like watching a movie for the first time. You wouldn't pause every 5 seconds to analyze the lighting or critique the acting, right? You want to let the story wash over you, get a feel for the overall plot, characters and themes. Reading the entire piece without making any notes allows you to get an overall sense of the work and its main arguments or themes. What's the writer trying to say? How do they make you feel? What works, what doesn't, and what leaves you scratching your head? This first read is all about forming an impression of the piece as a whole. Don't sweat the small stuff just yet. Just read, absorb, and let the words work their magic. Or not so magic, we're not judging yet. All right, time for round two. Now that you've got a feel for the overall piece, it's time to put on your critical thinking cap and really dig in. Grab your trusty notebook or open a new document because things are about to get noteworthy. This is where you become an active reader. As you go through the piece again, jot down key points, strengths, and areas for improvement. Look for clarity, coherence, and engagement. Is the argument clear and easy to follow? Does the writing flow smoothly? Is it interesting? Don't be afraid to mark up the paper or document itself. Highlight confusing passages, circle repetitive words, and write down any questions that pop into your head. Remember those guidelines we talked about? Now's the time to start thinking about whether the piece is meeting those specific requirements. Think of yourself as a detective searching for clues. Your mission to figure out what's working, what's not, and how to make the piece even better. Chapter 4. Building blocks. Checking the structure. Okay. Time to channel your inner architect because we're talking structure. Just like a house needs a solid foundation, walls and a roof, a good piece of writing needs a clear introduction, body and conclusion. Does the introduction grab your attention and clearly state the main argument? Does each paragraph in the body focus on a single idea and flow logically to the next? Does the conclusion effectively summarize the main points and leave you with a sense of closure? If the answer to any of these questions is not really, then it's time to put on your construction hat. This is where you can suggest ways to improve the flow of the paper. Maybe a paragraph needs to be moved, or perhaps the writer needs to add a stronger transition sentence. Remember, a well-structured paper is like a well-organized room. Everything has its place, and it's easy to find what you're looking for. Help your classmate create that sense of order and clarity in their writing. Chapter 5. The heart of the matter, evaluating content. All right, we've talked structure. Now, let's get to the heart of the matter content. This is where you put on your analytical thinking cap and really dig into the writer's ideas. First and foremost, does the work actually meet the assignment's objectives? Which go back to those trusty guidelines and see if the writer is on the right track. Then it's time to dig even deeper. Are the arguments supported by evidence and examples? Is the analysis insightful and thought-provoking? Does the writer demonstrate a clear understanding of the topic? If the answer is not quite, don't worry. This is where you come in with your superhero cape of helpfulness. Suggest additional sources the writer could consult, or point out areas where they could expand on their ideas. Remember, your goal is to help the writer strengthen their argument and make their writing more persuasive and compelling. Chapter 6. Finding their voice, clarity and style. Okay, we've covered structure and content, but there's more to good writing than just getting the information across. It's also about how you say it. It's time to talk about clarity and style. Is the writing clear, concise and easy to understand? Does the writer use language that is appropriate for the intended audience? Is the tone consistent throughout the piece? Remember, writing is a form of communication, and the goal is to connect with the reader. Encourage your classmate to use vivid language, strong verbs, and sensory details to bring their writing to life. On the other hand, if you find yourself stumbling over clunky sentences or drowning in a sea of jargon, don't be afraid to suggest simpler, more direct language. Sometimes less is more. Help your classmate find their voice and let it shine through in their writing. I know, we've been putting it off, but it's time to address the elephant in the room: grammar and mechanics. Yes, it's the part that can make even the most seasoned writer break out in a cold sweat, but it's also important. Think of it this way: you wouldn't show up to a job interview wearing a wrinkled shirt and mismatched socks, would you? Similarly, you want to make sure your classmates' writing is polished and presentable, so put on your editor's hat and get ready to channel your inner grammar guru. Look for spelling errors, grammatical mistakes, punctuation mishaps, and formatting inconsistencies. These pesky little errors can be distracting and detract from the overall quality of the work. But remember, be gentle. Nobody's perfect, and we've all been there. Instead of just pointing out the errors, offer suggestions for correcting them. And hey, if you're not sure about a particular rule, don't be afraid to look it up. We're all in this learning thing together, right? Okay, you've analyzed the paper, you've taken notes, you've channeled your inner grammar guru. Now it's time to deliver the goods, the feedback. But before you unleash a torrent of criticism, remember that feedback is most effective when it's constructive and encouraging. Think of it like a sandwich. You wouldn't just slap a piece of meat on a plate and call it a day, would you? No, you'd want to add some bread, maybe some lettuce and tomato, a little mustard for good measure. The same goes for feedback. Start by highlighting the strengths of the piece. What did the writer do well? What did you enjoy reading? This helps to create a positive and supportive tone. Then gently introduce the areas for improvement. Be specific in your suggestions, offering concrete examples and actionable advice. Instead of saying this paragraph is confusing, try I got a little lost in this paragraph. Maybe you could clarify what you mean by. Finally, end on a positive note. Reiterate the strengths of the piece and encourage the writer to keep up the good work. Remember, feedback is a gift, so let's give it with kindness and respect. All right, you've given your detailed feedback, but before you hit that submit button, there's one more step: summarizing your main points. Think of it like the conclusion of your peer review masterpiece. Start by summarizing your overall impression of the piece. Was it well written and engaging? Did it meet the assignment's objectives? Then briefly reiterate the main strengths of the work. Next, summarize your key suggestions for improvement. Focus on the most important areas where the writer could strengthen their work. What are the top 2 or 3 things they should focus on in their revision? Finally, offer some words of encouragement and suggest next steps for the author. Let them know you believe in their ability to improve and offer to answer any questions they might have. Remember, peer review is a collaborative process, so let's end on a note of support and encouragement. Congratulations, my friend. You've reached the final stage of this epic peer review journey. You've analyzed, you've critiqued, you've offered words of wisdom, and now it's time to share your brilliance with the world, or at least with your classmate. But hold on, just a second. Before you hit that submit button, there's one more very important step. Checking those submission guidelines one last time. Just like you wouldn't want to show up to a party wearing the wrong costume, you want to make sure you're following the professor's instructions to the letter. How should you submit your review? Is there a specific format you need to use? Are there any deadlines you need to be aware of? Double check everything, make sure your name is on it. Seriously, don't forget your name, and then with a flourish of confidence, hit that submit button. You did it! You've conquered the peer review monster and emerged victorious. Go ahead, give yourself a pat on the back, you deserve it. So, there you have it, folks. A step-by-step guide to giving killer peer reviews. By following these steps and focusing on these key elements, you can conduct a thorough and effective peer review that not only helps your peers improve their work, but also enhances your own understanding and skills. Remember, giving constructive feedback is a skill that takes practice, but the more you do it, the better you'll become. And hey, who knows? You might even learn a thing or two about your own writing in the process. Good luck with your peer reviews, and remember to be kind, be specific, and most importantly, be helpful. You got this. Now, if you found this video helpful, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more awesome writing tips and tricks. Until next time, happy writing.